All right, guys, Kevin here. So I'm going to show you guys a clip. It is everything that's wrong with America right now. Well, not everything, because there's a lot of problems, but this is one of the big problems. Check it out.
Well, Patriots new kicker Justin Warwasser is getting hammered on social media because of a tattoo on his arm that represents an anti-government group called the Three Percenters. Now, I talked to Justin tonight in a very, very contrite conversation. He's apologetic about all this, but here's part of that conversation.
So before we continue, let me give you a little backstory. This young man was recently drafted by the NFL, and a few days after he was drafted, a photograph starts circulating on Twitter. And in this photograph, his sleeves are rolled up, and you can see visibly on his right arm several patriotic tattoos. And let me tell you guys, that's all they were, is patriotic tattoos. These are tattoos that I've seen as a veteran on so many of my brothers and sisters in arms, people who are honest Americans, people who are the best America has to offer, family men who are veterans, who own businesses, who are pillars in their community, all have these types of tattoos. But of course, to the left-wing Antifa mob, anything that is patriotic is offensive to them. That is because they are left-wing pinko commie extremists. And when you are an enemy of America, anything that is Americana is a threat to you. So what do, they try to drum up false outrage and try to slander this young man by calling him a right-wing extremist. And that doesn't work. So what do? Do they give up? Go back to the jobs? No, because they don't have jobs, one. And second of all, they don't give up. This is all they have, folks, is attacking people on Twitter. So they call in the cavalry. And by the cavalry, I mean the SPLC, the ADL, and the left-wing subversives who have wormed their way into the sports media. These are people who can't even throw a football further than I can take a pee, but have jobs in the sports media. They are nothing but activists. And so these people start doing some research. They start digging. And they try to find something that they can hold over this young man's head. And finally, after they found nothing, they start zeroing in on one tattoo particular, the 3%er tattoo, and they try to slander him as being a racist because somebody in Charlottesville also had that tattoo. Now, this is a very common tattoo, and it does not represent any group or any specific ideology. It is just representative of the 3% of colonists who rose up to rebel against the British. That's all it is. But, you know, if somebody in Charlottesville ate a cheeseburger and somebody who's right of Mao is in a photo with the cheeseburger, this is what they're going to do to them. But that's not the worst part, guys. The worst part is what this man did after they went after him.
We're celebrating and, hugging and just so happy. I went on to Twitter and I saw the tweet and I saw that someone had taken a picture of me and put it with, my tattoo and linking me to some horrific events, obviously Charlottesville and these horrible things.
Why is this just coming up now? I mean, did this come up at all when you were in Marshall?
No, never. It was, the first time I found out what it was linked to was on Saturday. And that's why it was, so that's why it was so surprising.
When did you get the tattoo, Justin?
When I was 18, I got it. And it was described to me as, the percentage of colonists that rose up against the authoritarian government of the British. And I was like, wow, that's such a, American sentiment, a patriotic sentiment. And coming from a military family, I thought that really spoke to me. And I always was proud to be an American. I'm very proud.
So really quick, guys, several times in this video, you will hear him say, when I found out what it meant in regards to the 3%er tattoo. And what he means when he says, when I found out what it meant, is not that he sat down with a bunch of right-wingers who also have 3%er tattoos. He didn't do that and ask them, oh, what does this tattoo mean to you? No, that did not happen. He didn't sit down with any militia members. He didn't sit down with any historians or constitutional scholars. No, what most likely happened is he was dragged into a room full of cosmopolitan lawyers, members of the NFL's Diversity and Inclusion Department, and members of groups like Right Wing Watch and other commie groups like the SPLC. And they lectured him for hours about how anything patriotic is evil, and anyone who has anything affiliated with right-wing ideologies somehow wants to do harm to black and brown bodies. And the typical left-wing BS we hear anytime anyone dissents in any way against the mainstream left. And so that's what he means. Those are the people who educated him, or I should say re-educated him, on what a 3%er tattoo is all about.
The other day, you told the media that you would want to cover it up. Now, as I understand it, you're taking it one step further, aren't you?
Yeah, as soon as I saw what it was linked to on Saturday, exactly that time I knew I had to get it totally taken off my body. I said cover it up, but I want to get it removed from my body. It's shameful that I had it on there ignorantly.
So there you have it, guys. Another one bites the dust. Another person trembles and cowers to the Twitter outrage mob. You know, if just once one of these people in a position like this stood up and said, no, I will not back down. No, I would rather lose my job. I would rather be slandered by the media than lie about what I believe or misrepresent people in America who are patriotic. If that happened just once, things would change so quickly. But it always seems that the left overpower us. They hold money over these people's heads. They threaten their livelihoods. They threaten their families with physical violence. That happens too. Do not underestimate how far these animals on the left will go to try to shut down any kind of dissent, because they've done it to me. And I'm just a small YouTuber. They've come to my house. They've threatened my family. And why? Because of one hit piece from a left-wing media outlet. What do you think they would do to a guy like this if they could? If he hadn't buckled? So they put extreme pressure on these people. And that is why we are heading down a very dangerous road. That is why I say openly now that the only way to save America is for us to revolt. Because now, anyone who dissents in any way is immediately punished. We saw it this week when a small medical device company, a legitimate medical device company, not some fake snake oil company, had their YouTube channel shut down because one of their videos was a promotion for a device they made that President Donald Trump brought up in his briefing. And because it didn't fit the media's narrative, they erased this company from existence on all social media platforms. And they erased many other videos of doctors talking about this same exact treatment. And the reason it's gotten that far is because people like this didn't stand up when it counted. And like I said, I don't want to blame this young man because, you know, he's under a lot of pressure. They're holding a lot of money over his head, and he is young. But I hope he sees this video, because as a patriot, as a service member, and all these other things he claims to want to support, he disgusts me right now. And he should be more worried about what people like me think than what a bunch of left-wing losers and truly evil communists on the left in the sports media think, because those people are his enemy. And no matter what he does, they will always call him a racist. They will always call him a right-wing white supremacist. They're still doing it right now. So anyway, I thought I would share this video with you guys because not only is it a great example of the Twitter mob sowing false outrage and using that outrage to beat someone into submission, a private citizen at that, but it's also a great example of how left-wing activists at social media companies and on social media sites are working hand in hand with left-wing activists in the mainstream media and at companies and organizations like the ADL and the SPLC to attack private individuals, to go after anyone who dissents against their political beliefs. In this case, attack a symbol and use a lie to try to encourage this young man to mutilate his body, all based on this false premise. And so often we talk about how bad it can get in America. And we always say, oh, well, at least we're not China. But when you see stories like this, what's the difference? Ask yourself, what's the difference between China and their Communist Party's authoritarian social credit score and what happened to this young man? There's not much difference. One is the state doing it. The other is a mob, a collectivist mob of left-wingers from various organizations doing the same thing the Chinese government does, threatening this young man by holding his career over his head, threatening his family, threatening his life in some cases, as we've seen in some of the tweets about him. What's the difference? These people are authoritarians. And I hope by some miracle this young NFL player sees this video and he knows that he can be redeemed. But all it takes is for him to be honest, to listen to both sides of the argument, to go talk to those people who also have 3% tattoos and find out what it means to them before you listen to these con artists and snake oil salesmen and subversive enemies of America that have taken over the sports media and who run these Twitter outrage mobs. Anyway, guys, I hope you liked this video. I hope you'll share it. I'll see you later.